So hey kids, John here. We just got done washing the horn. Now we're going to dry it off. You want to go ahead and dry this thing off real good. And it'll take out some of the maybe leftover soap film if there is any, but we should have been able to knock that out. But we're going to go ahead and dry the outside off real good. And then I go ahead and blow right through the slides. Try and knock some of the water out. Now, this is a Trumpet swab. This is one of Tim Went's swabs, and they're great swabs. They are really well designed. They do a great job of cleaning the slides out. What I do is I run it through my tuning slide. Oh, I know it seems silly, but the more moisture I can get out, the happier I am. All right, so I've blown all the moisture at least into, if nothing else, my valve section. And I go ahead and drop my swab through there. And it's a clean horn. I wouldn't do this if I was just trying to clean out my swab. If you had a swab just for doing this on the road, you could wipe your valves down with a cloth and then drop a swab through to try and clean the valve cylinders. If you have a new horn, you might want to do that for the first several weeks and keep those valves very clean. Be a great idea. It'll take out any of the material that's slowly honing in and breaking down, because when you have a new horn and you do play on a new horn, you're going to get some wear in. And the wear in you need to clean out. So definitely oil your horns a lot when you have a new horn, and definitely swab out or clean out your horn at least every couple days, so that, because there's fine pieces of metal that are actually wearing in. Very subtle, but they're there. So you want to keep your valve cylinders really clean, and that's going to help them develop into very fast, good working valves. Okay, so I've cleaned the outside of that and dried the inside. Again, I blow through my slides, every one of them, to try and get any of the moisture I can out of them. Now, of course, if you have an air compressor, that would work great, but I don't, so oh well. So I use the great lung capacity that I've developed over years of playing trumpet. You're going to get a little messy, but hey, it's kind of fun, yeah? All right, so all those are cleaned out. The only slide I'm going to be able to get my swab through, really, is my tuning slide. So I'm going to drop my swab through here twice, I think, just to knock any moisture out. And that way you're going to start with a very dry, clean horn. You're not going to have a lot of moisture in your horn when you go to put it together. Now, valves. A lot of moisture in there. We did a lot of cleaning and soaking. So I blow through the bottom to try and knock anything out into this section here. Now, I'm sure there's going to be those that tell me that it's going to gunk up in there. Well, if you know what you're doing, you can take apart your valves and really clean them out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a video on just valves. But for most of the cleaning, I don't get that in depth, because you can lose springs. And if I got a gig tonight, which I do, and I screw this up and I lose parts, that gig ain't going to happen. So I blow through the valve and I knock moisture into this section up here. So I pull this to the top, and I see moisture coming out of there when I do that. So I blow the moisture out. And we're going to oil it really good too. All right, so each of the valves, I do the same thing. Give them a little shake. A lot of moisture comes out when you shake them. Don't let them fall. Blow through the bottom. Blow through there. Lift that up. Blow through there. So I blow off everything I can blow off. Shake it really good. There's water flying off my valve when I do that. One more time. All right, so I've gotten all the moisture I can get out of the horn. All right, now it's time to grease it. And I know this is an in-depth video, but We're trying to clean things up here, right? All right. So I use 2 different weights of grease, and I'm going to do my thin grease first, which is going to be my slides that I want to move. And I'm going to actually put a little bit of valve oil on those. Once I get the horn fully assembled, I'm going to drop a little valve oil on those and make it so they move even better. Because I want those bad boys to move. I don't want them hung up. So if you drop a little bit of valve oil on your slides that you're trying to move, what it does is it somewhat breaks down your grease and makes it a slipperier, less viscous. Viscosity is basically, I like to look at it this way, viscosity is how slow an oil or grease lets the part move. It really is about thickness, but to me, I equate viscosity with slow. The heavier the viscosity, the slower it's going to move. So if it's a real sticky grease, it's going to move slow. All right, so boom, boom, got those. Now I take my rag that I used to dry the horn off, and this now becomes my grease wipe and drag. You're going to have excess grease. So I don't get too hung up about it. I just want to get this done because I don't want to spend all day cleaning my horn. So I just put the grease on that I think I need, get it greased up really well, and then I go ahead and clean the excess off. Now, as soon as you put on this 3rd valve slide, get your stopper, whatever kind of design stopper you have, make sure your stopper is in place. All right, now I'm done with my thin grease. All right, so I go with my thicker grease, which is going to have a little bit more sticky effect, and it's going to help me keep from having my tuning slide slip, or if that's loose or whatever. So I use thick grease on my tuning slide so that I don't have it moving around so much. All right, and I also use the thicker grease on my 2nd valve slide, and the reason I do that is because I never pull it. So I want that grease to stay there. Now another thing about viscosity is typically if you get a higher viscosity or thicker grease, it breaks down slower, and that's the point. That's the whole point of having the thicker grease, is so it breaks down a little bit slower. So I've really greased those 2 things up. Bam, I'm in. Tuning slide's done, 2nd valve slide's done. All my slides are on. Now, my hand has some grease on it. So what I do is I draw it across the bottoms of my valve caps, and there's just a little bit of grease that's going to go into the threads. It's just enough, and I don't have to apply it because it's already on my hands. Now, I'm going to go wash my hands real quick. Okay, just got done washing my hands, and the reason I did that is because I do have grease on my hands, and I don't want the thicker grease to get commingled in with my valves. All right, so I folded up one of these towels several times so it turns into a nice place where I can go ahead and pour oil basically through my valve cylinders. So I am totally hydrating or washing my valve cylinders with oil. I don't play games when it comes to starting out after I've cleaned my horn. I want this section here to work. So I hydrate the heck out of my valves. All right? So now that each of the valve cylinders there has got oil, once again, here we go. Pull this top spring thing down and the oil just drops right through. So I've re-oiled the center of the valve, and then I oil the valve. And I oil the valve like crazy. There's oil pouring off my valve. I'm just going to set it in the cylinder for now. Same thing. Again, I pull this both sides and hold it back so that when I pour oil in the bottom, it just runs right through. Then I release it, and then I pour oil all over the entire valve. So this valve is soaked when it goes into the valve cylinder. All right, once again, pull this up, which is your spring tabs or guides, valve guides, whatever you want to call it. It is a valve guide and a spring. So I pull that up so that the oil can go through the center of the valve and re-lubricate the center of the valve so the corrosion is kept to a minimum on the inside of my valve, completely soaking the valve down. All right, I have just completely soaked those valves and the cylinder walls as well. So now I should be able to spin these bad boys on and have some valve oil drip out of the bottom. So if you look inside your Trumpet, there's going to be a notch in the valve cylinder there. And there's going to be one notch on one side, and that's going to guide your valve in. Now make sure you have the right number valve in the right number valve cylinder. All right? Now, 1, 2, 2, no, 3, amazing. So I know this is 3, so I'm going to drop it in number 3. And there's my notch, goes that way. There's a click, let's screw it down. All right. And this is, there it is, number 2. Okay. So, and there's my notch. There it is. All right. Great. There we go. Okay, now, before I put the valve bottoms on, I'm going to rock this back and forth and move the valves up and down. And what's happening is all that oil that I put in there is now washing down to the bottom. Okay? And I'm shaking it out. And then I'm going to dab that a little bit, and then I'm going to put your valve bottoms on. All right? And if you have a heavy cap, just remember which one that came off of. Remember how you have it set up, and you're good to go. And finally, I'm going to do one last wipe down for the outside of the horn, because it's probably a little oily. And then remember, I said that I was going to put some oil on those slides, because here's the thing. They're moving, but they're sticky. So what I do is I slide them out, all right? And I put some oil on that slide. And then pull them in, work them. Because I have such amazing grip, my thumb's fine. I gotta work this one a little bit more. It's not bad, but I'll put a little bit more on to break down the viscosity just a little bit, or make it a little bit thinner, so that tonight when I'm playing the gig and I go to kick it out on a D or a C sharp, it's going to kick out and I'm not going to have any problems with the way my horn functions. So there it is. And basically the elapsed time on the entire clean, really from beginning to end, is about a half hour, if you're just moving along real good. All right, so there you go. And I may have to check right away to see if it's really functioning or not. Just want to make sure that I got it. Couple notes. Yep, functioning. Clean horn, in the hotel, no washing. I don't have to worry about the towels. They're provided. Good place to do a horn clean on the road. But that's how I would do it if I was at home anyway. All right, kids, till next time, take it easy.